Hello everybody, welcome to the JavaScript course. In this video, I'm going to discuss destructuring assignment. The meaning of destructuring is like this. I want to separate the content of an array, or a string, or an object into separate elements. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the way to destructure an array, to destructure a string, and to destructure object properties. And for the object properties, I would emphasize the use of REST pattern. Now, let us see the HTML file first. The HTML file is very simple. I have a title here and a heading. And this HTML file is linked to a JavaScript file called myscript.js, which is stored in the JS folder. Now, let us go to the JavaScript file. In order for me to use the strict mode, I must say use strict on the first line of the JavaScript file. And now let me show you some examples to destructure an array first. Before doing so, I have to set up my array first. So now I have already got an array, and there are three quantities. And I would like to separate the three quantities into separate variables. So now I let an array which has three variables as having the values coming from the height array. So in this situation, I'm going to assign 178 to Alex, 169 to Bob, and 185 to Carol. So this is what we call the destructuring of an array. Each of the contents of the array is stored in separate variables. So how can I show the content of these variables? I can just print them out. So now I can print them out. So let me save and reload. Yes, you can see that Alice, Bob, and Carol are actually those numbers coming from the destructured array. And now we can see another example of destructuring a string. The idea is to use the split method. So now I'm going to set up a string first. So now I'll use the split method, and I want to separate this entire string into two parts. And the way to do the separation is the recognition of the space character. So I have to say split and a space. So word 1 will become computer, and word 2 will become programming. So let us see the result. So let me try to save the file and reload the page. Before doing so, I have to comment it out so that I don't show the previous output. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see that the first word to show is computer without any space before or after this word. And the second one is programming, and you can see that there is no space before the word programming. So you can see that the split method is able to separate the two parts of the string according to this space character. And we can also have some other methods of doing destructuring. Actually, we can leave some blanks when we do destructuring, and also the extra contents can be ignored. In my previous situation, I have two words, and the two words can be fully stored by the splitting result of coming from the string. So it is not always necessary to leave as many variables as required by the content to be destructured. So let me do another example right now. So now I have this command. So I want to destructure a certain string by recognizing the comma. So here the split method should contain the comma. Okay, so you can see that there are actually 4 values that could be destructured, but you can see that I have only 2 variables in my array on the left hand side of the equal sign, and you can see that I have a space here in order to separate the 2 consecutive commas. So you can see that the first value should belong to 2, and actually the second value is not stored. That means number 3 will not be stored, and the third value would be number 4, and you can see that I don't need to entertain all the contents that can be split by using the split method. So 5 here is not stored in any of the variables on the left hand side of the equal sign. So we can see the result of the first value and the third value. So let me save the file and reload the page. Okay, you can see that the first value is actually 2, and the third value is number 4, and the so-called second value is not really stored because I didn't give a name to store the so-called second value, which is 3. And of course, number 5 is not stored as well. That's why I have no variable to show up for the content of 5 in the original string. And now I'm going to show you that the default values can be used when the elements are insufficient. So what does I mean by that? Let me show you an example. So now I want to really destructure a certain array by having 2 variables, but actually I can only have 1 value coming out after the destructuring. So how about the second variable called age? If I want to print this content out, I would just print out the default value for that variable. So you can expect that John will be person name and age will be just 18, that is the default value. So let me show you the result. So now I'm going to do the alert windows for the 2 variable contents. Save, reload. Yes, the first one is John, which is the destructured result. And the second one is just 18 because there is actually no content given by the array on the right hand side of the equal sign. So in this situation, I just use the default value for my age variable, even though the right hand side didn't really give me a certain value to be stored in the age variable. So what would happen if the content is too long to be stored in the destructuring process? Actually, we can use the REST pattern to help us do so. The REST pattern is just represented by 3 periods. So the items that are not paired to the named variables are put to the more items array. That is the action I'm going to show you very quickly. In order to do so, I just add the 3 periods just before my array name called more items. Okay, now I have a very long string to be destructured, and you can see that there are actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strings that can be destructured when I split the string by recognizing the comma. Okay, so you can see that there are only 3 variables on the left hand side of the equal sign. That means I just want to assign the split result into 3 variables. So when we use the 3 periods to do the REST pattern, I'm able to store the remaining 3 strings into an array called more items. And of course, the first value to be separated is called book, which is stored in item 1, and pen is stored in item 2. So let us see the result by printing the contents. Okay. Now I'm trying to print out item 1, item 2, and the length of the array for the rest of the contents that are not stored in separate variables, and I'm also able to print out the array element from my more items array. Save. Reload. Yes, item 1 is the book. Item 2 is actually the pen. And of course, you can expect that the more items array is going to store the remaining 3 strings. And you can see that the length of the more items array is just 3 because I have 3 strings to be stored in it. And if I want to pick up the third element of the more items array, I just use index 2, and the index 2 gives me the highlighter, which is actually the third element in the more items array. You can see that we can use the REST pattern to store elements in a certain array. Okay, now I'm going to tell you the way to really destructure an object. So you can see that I have now got an object called dog, and there are 2 key value pairs in this object. So if I want to destructure it, I can show you my way now. So I can use the for loop, and I'm going to pick up the entries of the dog object, and the dog object would have some key value pairs, and I'm going to put the key and value of the dog object into the alert window. So I'm going to show the content 1 pair by 1 pair. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see that this is the first key value pair of my dog object after the destructuring. And this is the second key value pair of my dog object. So by using the object.entries function, I'm going to do the destructuring of an object. And now I'm going to show you the way to destructure an object, and I'm going to store them in an array. And we can see later on that the object properties are used as individual variable names. And the default value can be set up during the destructuring process. So let us see an example. Suppose I already have this object called student, and in this student object I have already got 3 key value pairs. So how can I do the destructuring of this object? Let me show you my way. So the idea is like this. I want to assign the student object to these 4 variables embraced by a pair of curly brackets. But we can see that there are only 3 key value pairs in my student object. But you can see I have 4 variables, and actually the extra variable is provided with a default value. So we can set up the default value during the destructuring, even if the object doesn't really contain that key value pair. So you can expect that the student name here is actually having the same name as in the destructuring assignment, and you can expect that the Alice string will be the value of this student name, and 10 will be stored in the past exam, and 10 will be stored in the year of study, which is actually the third variable in the destructuring process. And true will be stored in the past exam variable, which is actually the second value to be stored in the curly braces. So you can see that the order can be changed. We don't always need to follow the order shown in the given object. And of course, the final one will be just true because it is actually not present in the student object. So let us see the result by printing the content of these variable names after the destructuring. So let me save, and then I'm going to reload the page. Yes, the student name is Alex because I can do the matching very easily, and the student name is actually the key in the student object, and the value is just the corresponding value. So Alice is the first answer. Year of study is 10 because we do the matching of the variable name to that in the keys of the student object. True as the third alert window result, and true is actually the tuition paid variable content, which is actually provided with a default value. In the previous example, the variable name here actually matches those in the keys of my original object, but actually we can change the name during the destructuring process. So the variable name can be changed, and of course the default value can be set together at the same time. So let us see an example like this one. Now I have another object called teacher with 3 key value pairs. And how can I change the names of the variables during the destructuring? Let me show you my way now. Now you can see that I'm going to change the keys of the object to some short names called TN, YOT, SUBJ, and CR. And CR here is provided with a default value because it is actually not present in the teacher object. So during this destructuring assignment, the variable called is contract renewed isn't able to be obtained from the teacher object. In order to really use this variable, I have to do the default value beforehand. So I can show you the way to print out the content represented by the new names of the variables. So let me save and reload the page. Yes, TN is actually representing the teacher name. The teacher name is obtained from the assignment to become Helen. YOT is of course the years of teaching, which is actually 12 from the teacher object. SUBJ is actually English because it is obtained from the teacher object with the key value pair called subject and English. And CR is false because this is obtained by the default value during the destructuring assignment. When we really do the destructuring process, actually we don't need to entertain all the properties. So what does it mean by that? Let me show you an example. Now I have another object called vehicle, and I have 2 key value pairs from it. And let me show you the way of using only one of the key value pairs while leaving the other key value pair unattended. Now you can see that I just take one variable out of my vehicle object. I want to take out color, and in this situation I would neglect the other key value pair whose key is called vehicle type, and of course the corresponding value is also ignored. So let me see the result. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see that the color is actually red because it is obtained from the vehicle object after the destructuring assignment. Another situation to demonstrate is that I can destructure an object using the REST pattern. So what does it mean by using the REST pattern? Let me show you an example right now. Now I have an object called laptop, and I have 4 key value pairs in it. So when I want to do the destructuring, it is possible for me to set up 4 variables to store the content. But if I don't use 4 variables, I can use, for example, 3 variables, one of which is an array to store the REST pattern. So the idea is really like this. I want to store the monitor and the weight values. And how about the remaining 2 key value pairs in the object? I can put the values of these remaining 2 keys into the array called other features. And since I want to store 2 or more variable content, since I want to store 2 or more values into an array, I have to use the REST pattern by putting 3 periods before my array name. Okay, so let me see the result. So now I'm going to show you all the contents. The first one to show is the monitor value. Save. Reload. So you can see that the monitor value is 15.6. It should refer to the size of my monitor. And the second alert window is going to show you the content of my array in the form of a REST pattern. So other features .is battery detachable is true because this is actually the content stored in my laptop object. And I would get false as the third alert window content because this is actually referring to the touch screen key of the laptop object. So it is false. So you can see that I can access the content of the array that stores the REST pattern. Now the final thing to talk about is the way to destructure an object that has both arrays and objects. So suppose I now have a pretty complex object that has an object inside and an additional array. So how can I do the destructuring of this complex object? Let me show you my way. So now I want to assign the computer store object to this content embraced by a pair of curly braces. So the basic info will be obtained from the computer store object. And of course, I'm going to take out the object inside the computer store object. So I'm going to have the store value as the best computer store, and the license number will be 123456. Okay, and of course, I'm also able to destructure that object to obtain the content of its array inside the object. So I'm going to have product 1, product 2, and product 3 as keyboard, mouse, and earphone respectively. So let me see the result of the destructuring process. So let me see the result. Save. Reload. Yes, you can see that the store name is the best computer store. The license number is just 123456. And each of the products can be stored in product 1, product 2, and product 3 respectively. So you can see that when we destructure an object that has both arrays and objects, we can use this syntax to pick up the array content and the object content. And we can have those variable names which will be the same as those present in the original object. So I can store the values corresponding to those keys. Okay. So this video has already talked about so many ways to destructure objects, strings, or arrays. We can destructure an array. We can destructure a string using the split method. We can handle the default values if you really have those default values to be represented in your assignment process. And we can also use REST pattern to store some content that can be treated as one category. We know how to do the destructuring of object properties. We can also know how to use the short names, or we use other names to represent the original key names. And we can ignore some properties if we do the destructuring process. To destructure an object, we can still use the REST pattern. And we also know how to do the destructuring of an object if it contains both arrays and inner objects. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about my video, please leave your questions on the comment section below the video. If you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.